Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features X-Force number 9, cover dated April 1992. The cover is by Rob Liefeld, and it features maybe the biggest gun that he's ever drawn on the cover of a comic book, held there by Cable in the background. More of a cannon than a gun, really. And we've got Shatterstar in the foreground, and he's holding a gun too. And really the reason he's holding that little pistol there or sidearm is because if he was holding a sword like you'd expect him to be, that would obscure Domino here in the background. That's a pretty good looking Domino as well. So it's an interesting cover, and also I see little signs of Rob's Youngblood style in some of the mark making here and the inking, in particular on Shatterstar's forearm here. It reminds me a little bit of what he's going to look like on the first few issues of Youngblood, and that makes sense that his inking style would have evolved over the course of the half a year to 9 months that he was working on X-Force. So let's open this one up to the splash page, and there is a splash page, and the title of the story is there, Underground and Over the Top. And the creative team, Rob Liefeld is the plotter, and penciler Dan Panosian, inker, and probably finisher on some of these pages. Fabian Nicieza, the script, Chris Eliopoulos, letters, and Steve Buccellato, colors. So this picks up at the end of the previous issue. There were only 2 pages, the first page and the last page, that were set in the quote-unquote present of the storyline developing from issue 7 in the previous issue, because in the middle of that was a Mike Mignola pencil story that showed us some of Cable's secrets from the past and also from the far future as well. So we're going back to what happened at the end of issue number 7 when Cannonball was apparently killed by Sauron. So Cable is lifted Cannonball, his corpse off the ground, Sauron is here in the background, and Cable is making for Medilab to see if they can do something for Sam. Now, it was revealed in the previous issue that Cable has known from the very beginning that Sam Guthrie Cannonball was potentially a High Lord, and the thing about the High Lords is they can't die, they're Eternals. So this is a pretty interesting page here where we've got Boom Boom laying down some, I suppose you'd call it suppressing fire in order to keep Sauron off their backs, and he says to her, "You hurt me, pup, as did your mentor, but there are some advantages to aligning myself with the Brotherhood of Mutants." And so she is blindsided from behind by Thorn, who is Ferrell's sister, but Domino comes in to help Boom Boom out there. So the layout on this page is pretty decent, and another decent enough layout here as well. But what I think is happening on this page in particular is we're probably getting roughs from Liefeld, and they're getting finished by Dan Panosian in the inks. That face there in particular doesn't really look terribly like Rob Liefeld's style. So there's definitely some penciling assists going on here in the finished inks by Panosian. So we have a little fight here, mini fight between Thorn and Domino gets the better of Thorn here, kicking her in the jaw, and that's gotta hurt. So then what we have is Domino and Boom Boom racing to the medical lab as well, and in the medical lab, the underground headquarters of X-Force, Cable is there hoping that Sam will revive, because he's supposed to be a High Lord. Now you can see on this particular page that there isn't much in the way of backgrounds, that really this probably was a bit of a rush job getting this one penciled and off to the printer. But there's some nice enough layouts, and the storytelling is not too bad. Now, just as I say that, there's a little bit of a continuity error here. So Sam is on this slab in the medical department. It doesn't look high-tech or anything. It looks more like a tomb that he's laid on. And Cable here is saying, "Dying is supposed to be the start of living for you. You're something special, Sam. That's why I've been here all along. That's why you healed so quickly from Ferrell's gut shot." That was back at the end of issue number 2. "That's why you've always had so much trouble using your kinetic blasting powers." Now that's an interesting dimension of Cannonball being a High Lord, all because you're a High Lord, and your life doesn't begin until it ends. So you have to die and be resurrected, so to speak, to become a High Lord. But Sam is not waking up. But look, his jaw has opened and his mouth is open from panel 1 to panel 3 on this particular page. So that makes him look as if he is still alive in the artwork. In any case, Sauron arrives at Medilab, so Boom Boom didn't succeed in keeping him off Cable's back for terribly long. I like the way that Liefeld renders Sauron's face in particular, his head and face here. He really does look reptilian and monstrous. And Panosian does a good job too, indicating the kind of reptilian texture, or the texture of Sauron's reptilian skin and his hypnotic stare there. But Cable says to Sauron as he tries to hypnotize him, "Your trick doesn't work if I have my real eye closed, lizard." So that's interesting as well. So he's closed his right eye, and this other eye, his bionic eye, is not susceptible to Sauron's hypnotizing power. So he starts blasting away at him again. Let's see how that goes for him. Well, actually there's a scene switch. So we're back outside, Warpath's outside Shatterstar and Siren, and they're looking around for the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and Warpath says either they all bugged out or they're still all hiding. So one of them makes his appearance, and that is Blob. So he looks absolutely monstrous and disgusting in the way that Liefeld has designed him for this particular storyline. Look at that huge non-neck that Blob has there as he punches Warpath. And he's about to launch here at both Shatterstar and Siren. So Siren says, "My sonic powers and your cutting blades can hurt him, no matter how dense his flab is." That's a funny piece of dialogue there. I like the layout of this particular panel as well. The open border choice here too. It looks good. And Shatterstar says, "Then you maintain a tight sonic scream to affect his equilibrium." So Shatterstar, over time, learning to work with the other members of X-Force, a member of the team. And so he moves in to carve up Blob. Now this is an interesting page in terms of what's going on here. It's made more plain in the dialogue than it is in the art. You can see the front of Blob's face there is kind of in shadow, but there's this black goop that's emerging from his face. So the implication is that Shatterstar has found a weak spot among all those soft spots. And Blob says here, "Maybe you did, kid. Not many of you hero types go for the mouth. Guess the X groups I'm used to fighting operate under a different set of rules than you do." So X-Force, yes, prepared to use more direct and violent methods to tackle their antagonists. So the Blob is backing up to the edge of a cliff here, and he basically drops off the side of the cliff. I like this in the dialogue as well, that Nicieza has written for Shatterstar. He jumped off the cliff, that fat fool. That's pretty good. So Siren says he knew he'd survive the fall, so he retreated rather than face us. And Shatterstar writes him off as a coward. Let us attend to the other member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and that would be Sauron. This is a great double-page spread here. So even though this is Rob Liefeld in a rush, he always seems to make time or enjoy drawing Feral. And his version of Feral is an excellent one. And this in particular is a really nice spread here. So he's definitely put the work into this. It reads very well. The anatomy's good. She looks on model. And that's good. And also Sauron as well. He does a good Sauron too. So she's getting the better of Sauron up to this point, when he basically cuts her in the gut as well with his wing talons. And he says here, "I'm not to be your pincushion, feline, nor am I willing to suffer your violent diatribes any longer. A shame indeed, Feral, for like your sister Thorn, your ferocity would have been of great use in my war against mammalian flesh." Sauron always talking like a Silver Age villain. And I like Nicieza's response that he's given Feral, "Blow it out your eye, Godzilla." That's pretty good stuff. So then, who arrives in Medilab except for Thorn? She wasn't dealt with 100%. The art here looks a little bit rushed. Not a lot of attention paid to these few panels on the top part of the page. A little bit more attention paid to Cable here. And then something very interesting happens between Cable and Thorne. So she has, in effect, slashed his face here in this panel. It's not clear 100%, but you can see that kind of dark goop, and that is like blood and flesh that she's ripped off his face. And the colorist, Steve Buccellato, hasn't twigged to that here, so he's colored the whole side of Cable's face flesh colored. But what has happened is that she has ripped the skin, the synthetic skin off his face, and now we get double page spread, but it's one of these sideways ones, and it's pretty cool. Turn this to the side, see if I can kind of stretch out the page so that you get the full impact here. This would have been better if it came in the middle of the book so that you could see the whole of Cable's face and that there wasn't some of the detail lost there in the middle of the two pages coming together. But that's a nice shot. Make sure you can see all of that on camera. A nice shot of Cable there, close, 3/4 profile more or less. And he says, "I'm the kind of animal that'll do whatever it takes to survive the fight." Yeah. And looking, of course, in 1992, very T2-like, with that reveal of all of the mechanical dimensions of his cyborg nature. So let's get back to the story here. And again, this looks like a bit of a rushed page, trying to get through what's going on and not too much attention paid to the art, really. So Thorne is out, Sauron's out. Who arrives here? We've got Boom Boom and Domino arriving. And then we have Mask arriving. So there was a pact between the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants under the leadership of Toad and the Morlocks under the leadership of Mask. And so Mask is arriving here with Fantasia, and he says to Cable, "You owe us more than pain and misery now, Cable. You owe us blood." So he's working away on this particular piece of equipment here. And Cable says, "Mask, the only thing I owe you is a painless death." And let's see what that amounts to. So yeah, we have the arrival of Warpath, Siren, and Shatterstar as well. Fantasia decides that she's going to leave and leaves Mask to deal with X-Force on his own. So he says, "Very well then, neither a victory nor a loss. Once again we part with matters between us unsettled," but Cable's not having any of that. And this again speaks to the tougher, harder edge of X-Force as an X-team. He says, "No, Mask. I told you last time we met that if you kept pushing your luck, you were as good as dead. If I'm anything, I'm a man of my word. Shatterstar, put him out of our misery." I like that phrasing from Nicieza. So Shatterstar basically stabs him in the back with his blade. Now we don't see it emerging from his chest there, but that's it. And Shatterstar says, "Mask, since you were never an honourable opponent, you do not deserve an honourable death." And so he stabs him in the back. Now I think something's gone wrong here with the placement of the speech balloons, because Warpath is the one who's saying you do not deserve an honourable death, but it's supposed to be Shatterstar saying that. And over here, Cable says, "Shatty, don't, oh geez," but it should actually be who? Should be Boom Boom, I would say. Or maybe, probably Boom Boom, I think. Maybe that sounds more like her. But the Shatty business sounds like Feral. But it wouldn't be her that would be saying anything like that. And Fantasia is still there. She hasn't actually left. So something has kind of gone wrong in the communications there between Liefeld and his plot, the pencils, the letterer, and Nicieza's script. And you know what that speaks to? That speaks to a rush deadline to get this book to the printers. That's what that reveals. Now I do like the layout here on this final page. This top-down shot. We've got Mask bleeding out on the floor. Borderless panel. It looks good. And Warpath says, "Shatterstar, Cable, what are you doing?" Now that's interesting from Warpath, because Warpath, you know, in recent issues was characterized as being looking for payback, in particular from the Hellfire Club, and it was implied that he was prepared to kill them, to kill Sebastian Shaw in particular. So why has he got moral qualms now over Mask? In any case, Cable says, making sure Mask and the Morlocks never bother us again after what this stupid fight has cost us. But look who's up and alive and moving and kicking, and it is Cannonball. So he says, guys, what the heck's going on? And so he's got that wound in his chest and all the blood coming out of his nose and mouth, but he's alive. And that is, yeah, I like the layout on this particular page. It's pretty good. So next, answers and questions. So it would appear that Cannonball is indeed one of these High Lords and Eternal. So there is something coming up at the end of this issue. It's like part 2 of the Weapon X story that began in, I'm trying to think now whether it was in the previous issue or the one before that. I think it was it was the one before that. It was in issue 7. We had the beginning of this story with Weapon X Kane. But here it looks very much like Liefeld has done the layouts, but the finishes are most definitely by Dan Panosian here. He's doing the lion's share of the work on these particular pages. So he's fighting the MLF there. You've got Sumo, you've got Forearm, and you've got Wildside. Oh yeah, here we've got the credits. They're teeny tiny. Liefeld there credited, but it's just the plot and layouts, I would say. Panosian, the pencils. And also Mark Pacella's getting credit there. So is he doing some penciling or is he just on inks? That's interesting. Nicieza with the words and Sharp with the, I think it's Dave Sharp with the lettering. And there's no credit for the colorist. So who colored this? Is it Buccellato? Could be, but he's not. He doesn't have a credit there. That's interesting. So a bit of a fight there. It's not a terribly interesting story at all, because what happens at the end of this is, you know, Kane here holds his own against the MLF, in particular against Wildside. He uses his detachable hand there to grab Wildside by the throat. That's pretty funny. And then this is hilarious, actually. He takes off his arm. He takes off his right arm and he smacks Forearm with his right arm. That's a bit of a joke. You know, that's funny. I appreciate that. So anyway, Wildside disappears using Zero to teleport them all out of there. But just as he ports away, who's there to taunt Kane except for Strife? And that's a pretty decent enough drawing of Strife. Now this particular page looks like, this one looks like it was drawn by Mark Pacella. So Panosian maybe inking this, but not drawing it. This is Pacella drawing this. Yeah. So Strife says to Kane, hello Kane, long time no see. I imagine it'll be even longer after I kill you. So to be concluded in the next issue. Next issue, more shocks, more stunners. Enter the externals. And what's the letters here? They're about X-Force number 5, number 6. Yeah, so those are what people are, those issues are the ones that people are talking about in the letters page. Well, I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on X-Force number 9. This is the last issue that features full pencils by Rob Liefeld. Subsequent issues, his plot will continue for another couple of issues before he's completely gone to Image. So this is his last fully penciled issue of X-Force. Some of the pages he's definitely putting a fair bit of effort into, but I do think that this one was under deadline pressure to get to the printers on time, and some of those pages definitely the pencils being finished in the inks by Dan Panosian. Let me know what you think of this issue in the comments to the video. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like the video on YouTube. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.